Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Stubblefield. I am the co-founder of a company called TeleSign, and super excited to be here with you today to tell you a little bit more about what we do and our journey to get to where we are today, and also how we're helping our local Asian clients expand their reach internationally. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So what we do, we started out as a two-factor authentication company. What is two-factor authentication? So let's go through that for a minute. Two-factor authentication is a way of securing your online accounts. And so the way that it works, you guys have probably seen this when logging into your email account or when logging into your bank account. You'll enter your username and password. You'll then be asked to receive a one-time PIN via voice or text message. And then you enter in that PIN code in order to actually access your account. And so that was the first service that we provided to our clients. And as you can probably tell, it's heavily reliant on telecommunications. We also then expanded into just standard messaging. So most of the messaging that we send is mission critical type of messaging. So alerts or notifications for instance, a bank, or for your email account or your other type of account where there might be some suspicious activity happening or an alert that you elected to receive on some type of event. In addition, we also provide data, specifically identity data, around the phone number that the user has provided to a website. And so the type of data that we provide ranges from contact information, so it could be the name and address associated with the phone number, to subscriber status information. That could be information like the date that the phone number was activated. It could be the type of line. Is it a business line? Is it a personal line? Is it a family plan? That type of information. And then we also have SIM information, specifically the date that the SIM card was last changed, and then score information. So the score that we provide actually gives you an idea of the riskiness around the phone number in various different contexts. So either for registration or two-factor login. And so most of the data, pretty much all of the data actually that we provide, is really meant to help secure the phone number and secure the website, to make sure that the person who has provided a phone number has provided a phone number that isn't super risky. And so how did we start? We actually started out extremely small. There were only 3 of us. You can see the 3 co-founders there in the left panel. This was 15 years ago, back in 2005. And so you can see some of the marketing material that we had here, our trade show stuff. It was just 3 of us. We had an idea. We wanted to protect websites. And so we got started. We knew almost nothing about the telecommunications industry at that time, other than how to use our mobile phones, which, thinking back that far, there was no iPhone even back in 2005. So that was quite a long time ago. Since then, we've grown a ton. So as I mentioned, it's been 15 years. We started in 2005. We now have 4 offices around the world. We have over 350 employees and customers based in 113 countries. So we've expanded, obviously, quite a bit. We do over 1 billion transactions per month, and we work with 21 of the top 25 web properties and mobile apps in the world. So how did we get here? So we launched in the US. Obviously, we're based in Los Angeles, and that is still where our headquarters resides. When we started, all of our clients were obviously US based. All of the transactions that we did were US based. So every two-factor authentication message that we sent was destined for the US. And the data that we were providing back around phone numbers was all US based. So these are what I would refer to as the simple days, when everything was easy to manage and easy to learn, and very simple to offer, data around a phone number when it's only based in one country. Due to client demand, we had to add international reach. And we did this very quickly. So we had a large client that came to us and wanted to basically immediately add international reach. And so we had to bring on international partners extremely quickly without really understanding how the industry worked that much. So we started, for SMS, we started with just one aggregator. And we noticed that the quality was extremely poor. And what do I mean by this? I mean, we would see APIs go down. There was intermittent API downtime. There were SMS delivery failures that our clients would complain about. And there was almost no way to actually troubleshoot any of these issues at the time, because we were reliant upon, only one aggregator that didn't have all that much data. And so, to step back for a second, how did we, solve this problem? We basically had to very quickly learn how the industry works. And so after, putting on our high level cap, we had to see what was going on. And so we learned, obviously, maybe this should have been obvious to us, that in order to deliver a text message to an end user's phone, you have to go through the carrier that the user is using. So for example, if an end user, a subscriber, is on Safaricom, the only way to send a text message to that user is to go through Safaricom one way or another. And so what does that mean? Basically, that means that we were reliant upon our one vendor, our one aggregator, to manage all of the connections to carriers around the world, which was nearly impossible to do. There's over 800 mobile operators internationally. And the thought of an aggregator having connectivity to 800 international operators is untenable. So you rarely see that happen. And so what we had to do then was build out more direct connections ourselves. And so this illustration on the right basically shows you our original setup. We were connecting into one aggregator. It actually wasn't based in Europe, but just for the purposes of demonstration. The blue line shows our headquarters in Los Angeles, and we were connecting to an aggregator, and that aggregator was then connecting out to other carriers and aggregators. Actually, they were connecting out to other aggregators more than other carriers around the world, and then they were reliant upon those aggregators to connect out to carriers locally. And so you can see there's a lot of opportunity for failure here. And that was a big problem for us, because what we did, and what we still do, is we provide, two-factor authentication services. That means that if there's an issue with delivering a text message, a user is not going to be able to enter their accounts. And many of our clients also use us on registration to verify phone numbers. And so again, that means if there's an issue, then users aren't going to be able to create a new account, which is a big, big problem for our clients. So we had to be sure, we had to learn how to manage this extremely quickly and how to make it more reliable extremely quickly. And so what we started to do, we initially started by bringing on additional aggregators so that we had failover options. But then we also realized that many of those aggregators all use the same underlying aggregators. And so we would see kind of the same issues happening across multiple aggregators. And so what we had to do then was start building out our own direct connectivity. And so that's what we did. We started building out direct connections to carriers around the world in order to increase our reliability as much as possible. However, there's always an issue, right? Direct connections are definitely not easy to do, and for a variety of reasons. And so I'll go through a few of them here. To make a direct connection with a carrier, it takes a very long time. So reaching out to the carrier, getting them to be interested in actually directly connecting to you, negotiating with them, that it can be, I mean, that can legitimately be a year-long process. It's very time consuming. And then it's also very time consuming to actually set up the connection, the technical connection between your company and the carrier. So, you know, there's a lot of back and forth that has to happen, a lot of specific testing that has to happen. And so it takes a very long time to do that. You must also manage hundreds of connections. So there's over 800 mobile network operators officially recognized by the GSMA. That's a lot of connections, both on the business side and on the technical side, that you have to manage if you do direct connections. It's very, very difficult to do, especially if it's not your main, business, right? It's in many cases more expensive, and it's sort of counterintuitive, but some aggregators have found uh, some ways to deliver messages that basically go around the carrier's allowed routes, let's say. And so those tend to be less expensive. The problem with those types of routes is that they're much less reliable. And so they're not so good to use for alerting and for two-factor authentication. It's more expensive in many cases to connect directly to the carrier, but you're getting a much more high-quality connection. And then in many cases, carriers actually require a minimum commitment. So you have to guarantee that you're going to send a certain number of messages every month, or I guess in some cases every year. And if you don't hit those minimum commitments, then you have to pay the difference. And so you've wasted money there. So there are many, many problems with direct connections, but that really is the way that we, for our business, had to go. It's the only thing that made sense for us. And so that's what we did. Luckily, I'll say, in 2017, we actually were approached by a company called BICS. They're based in Belgium, and they're a carrier hub, essentially. So they provide connectivity between carriers around the world for voice, for data signaling, for roaming, and for SMS as well. And so they're actually, a lot of people don't know, but they're one of the world leading voice carriers. They carry, they're one of the top 5 voice carriers by minutes in the world, which means that they carry a bunch of minutes, and you've probably actually used their network without knowing it when you've called someone internationally or when you've roamed internationally, because they're also a big, one of the top roaming providers in the world. So what does all of that mean? Basically, that means that they have a ton of direct carrier connections just as a function of their business. That basically their business is to make direct carrier connections around the world. And so they have connectivity to over 700 mobile network operators. And so they actually purchased us in 2017. And we are now able to piggyback on their 700 plus direct carrier connections, which has been extremely helpful to us when it comes to direct carrier connectivity around the world. And it also means that when you use TeleSign, when you use our network, you're essentially connecting in to one of the largest telecoms in the world to be able to deliver messages to anyone, any user, no matter what carrier they're on. So that was pretty exciting for us, and it's really helped our business, helped our quality, and helped us just bring excellent carrier connectivity to our clients around the world. It's also been a help to have BICS as a parent company when it comes to sourcing data around the world. And so I think I mentioned earlier that one of the products that we bring is basically identity data for users, subscribers around the world. We were as far as I know, the first company ever to bring phone data in the context of understanding an online user. And so we have 15 years of experience doing this, and we've been working on perfecting it for the past 15 years. It's actually very much more complicated than it might sound, just because in every country, every country sort of has its own rules, different phone number links, different prefixes. Some of them occasionally don't report all of their valid prefixes. Sometimes they'll add a digit at the beginning or somewhere in the middle of phone numbers because they are running out of phone number space, namespace basically in the phone number range. And so we've been working for the last 15 years to really understand how all of that works and make sure that we're providing out the most accurate data possible and really augmenting all of our data sources. We have multiple teams dedicated to this, both perfecting the phone data that we're providing out, and then also sourcing brand new phone data from carriers around the world, both sourcing from carriers that we haven't yet brought on board, and also bringing on new types of data from carriers that we have already partnered with. And so those teams are really hard at work bringing all of this type of data on. And we have seen a lot of interest from our clients and a lot of success by our clients using this data to stop fraud of various types on their websites and apps. So it's been super exciting to be one of the first companies to bring this type of data to the world. And so another thing that we're working on is expanding heavily into Asia. So we recognize that Asia is one of our top markets and one of the top markets in the world, obviously. So we built out a team of 7 in China, so actually located in China, and then we have 16 total dedicated to Asia. And so our team has grown quite a bit, especially in the last few years. And so we have all functions, or many functions in Asia, I should say, including sales, customer success, which involves helping with onboarding and understanding the APIs and whatnot, and then also tech support. So we have local tech support, meaning if there's any issue, there's someone locally that our clients can get in touch with. They speak the language, they are in the same time zone, and so they can provide support extremely efficiently. We are also in the process of adding members of our routing team to Asia. So they will be dedicated on sourcing new direct connectivity directly in Asia. And so we now have a bunch of clients out in Asia, as you can imagine. And what we do with those clients is largely we help them reach the rest of the world specifically outside of China. So if the client is located in China, they might have their own direct carrier connectivity inside of China to reach Chinese users and subscribers. But they might not be able to reach outside of China. And so that's where we come in. We connect directly to those clients, and then those clients are able to take advantage of all of the international direct connectivity that we have. And that means they can reach users in basically any country in the world, on any carrier in the world. So we've been extremely excited about the growth that we've seen there. And we just expect that to continue in the future. So let's look at a few case studies of our Asian clients. So the first is Alibaba. They're a longtime customer. They started with us back in 2016. They actually use our Score product to understand the type of phone that a user is providing and then how risky that phone is. And I'll just go into that just a little bit deeper. And so what happens is many of our clients use phone verification during the registration process. And you might not understand why clients do this or why companies do this, but I'm sure you've seen it before. But the reason this is done is because fraudsters are trying to create thousands, in many cases millions of accounts, fake fake accounts that they can use for various different things. And so the type of things that fraudsters use fake accounts for can be anything from sending spam or posting comments on websites, doing fake reviews for products. There's just phishing. There's a bunch of different things that fraudsters can use accounts for. It's actually really fascinating when you start to get into it. But we won't get into that here. But basically, in order to do their fraud, they need millions and millions of accounts. And so, it's super easy to sign up for an account with just an email address and a password, right? You can make an email address in a matter of seconds if you have it automated. And so just having them enter in an email address and verify an email address is definitely not good enough to stop this type of fraud. And so what our clients do is, rather than only having the user enter in their email address, they also have the user enter in their phone number. In some cases, they only have the user enter in their phone number. And then they verify that phone number by sending a one-time passcode via SMS to the phone number. And so what this does, well, I should also mention that in many cases, our clients will only allow one account, or at least a limited number of accounts per phone number to be created. And so what this does is it stops fraudsters from being able to create so many accounts so quickly like they do with email addresses, because in order to create accounts, the fraudster now needs access to millions of phone numbers. And millions of phone numbers are certainly not easy to come by. It's actually nearly impossible to come by that many phone numbers. And so our clients, the one way that you can come by that many phone numbers is actually to use VoIP numbers, numbers that are not actually tied to a mobile device. And so when we first introduced this product, we started to see fraudsters using VoIP numbers to get around phone-based verification. And so we needed to bring a product to market that would identify those phone numbers. And so that is how our clients use our phone ID and score products. They look for the type of phone being provided, and if it's a VoIP number, they typically reject it. We got a little bit more granular with one of our products called Score, where we don't just look at the type of phone, but we also look at a bunch of additional information around that phone number, including its patterns on our network. So have we seen it before? Where have we seen it? How often have we seen it? That type of information. And then some other information, sort of secret sauce internal. So I can't get deeply into it, but we look at a variety of things, a variety of patterns to identify how risky it is to accept that phone number for phone-based registration. And so that is one of the products that Alibaba is using to help stop this type of fraud. And they're also using SMS, obviously, for international verification, and then also for notification to notify their users of certain events. An additional, use case is reselling SMS services. So more than just being a client, Alibaba is actually a partner. So they don't just consume our SMS and Phone ID products, they actually resell the SMS services to their clients. So that's also very exciting that we're able to help them help their clients reach users all over the world. And so one of the important factors for Alibaba signing up with us was actually that they needed localized tech support. And so, obviously it's extremely important if there's any issue to be able to reach someone quickly and easily. And so we've been steadily building out that muscle at TeleSign, as I mentioned a couple of slides ago. And that was extremely important to them. And so we were happy to be able to help them with that requirement. In addition, we're also working with Achi. They've been a customer since 2015. They use SMS in a very similar way as Alibaba for verifications of their users, and then also notification. One of the additional use cases that they have is password reset. And so What does that mean? Password reset essentially happens, when a user forgets their password, they need to reset it. This can be a very time-consuming and expensive process, essentially, for a call center to help a user reset their password. Some websites allow customers to use email to reset their password. That can work. It can also be a bit of a pain because in many cases, password reset emails go into junk folder. And it can also be a little bit risky because fraudsters have been known to find ways to access users' email accounts. So, if they have if they happen to have the username and password of the user for the website or app that they're attacking, in many cases, users will reuse that information. It'll be the same username and password that they're using for their email address. And so, again, that can cause security issues. And so we highly recommend using SMS for password reset. And that is what they are using this for. So basically, and the flow for that is, the user says that they forgot their password. They enter in the phone number associated with their account. In some cases, they might also enter in the email address. They might also enter in their username. And they get sent a password reset code a one-time passcode that they use. They enter that into the website, and then they're allowed to reset their password. So it's completely without manual intervention, completely automatic. The user can manage it themselves, so super easy. This company is also reselling SMS services to their clients. Actually, that's the parent company of this company. But again, working with them as a partner. And again, they also needed localized tech support. It was very important to them. And so again, as I mentioned before, we've built out that muscle quite a bit in Asia. And so we have really enjoyed working with these two Asian clients. So that is it. That's the story of TeleSign, how we got to where we are, and how we're working with Asian clients to help connect them and their users that are located around the world. So again, super excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining me in this presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. My email is stacy@telesign.com, and happy to have been here. Thank you so much.